Storytime with Grena. Hello everybody and welcome one more week to Storytime with Grena. I'm Grena Lawson and just like every week, I'm here to brighten up the next 7 minutes of your Friday with another story. I'll tell you a few events that may or may not have happened, and it is up to you to decide if they are real or fake. Are you ready? But before we start a new story, let's talk about last week's. I told you about Nina, a friend I made in college, who fancied herself a fallen angel with superpowers. Is that story real? Well, let's find out. Unfortunately, that story about Nina is very real. I've met a lot of weirdos in my life, and yes, Nina was one of them, and yes, she did think she was a fallen angel. I haven't seen her or heard from her in ages, and frankly, I have no interest. And now let's move on to another story. This one I like to call Hangover in Hannover. And funnily enough, it has nothing to do with drinking. It's just that I thought it sounded funny. Do you remember the movie Inside Out? If you do, you will remember that really funny scene about how our brains have this habit of deleting things without consulting us. Like, sometimes we might forget names, dates, what we studied the night before, but my brain apparently decided to erase an entire city from my memory. And yes, that city was Hannover, or Hannover, as they say in German. 2023 wasn't my best year, especially the first half. And one of the things that happened during that first half of 2023 was the worst business trip of my life. I'm not going to go into details, but just so you get an idea, everything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong. Anyway, that's not relevant for now. The interesting thing is that one of the places we visited during that trip was Hannover. I remember being asked if I had been to Hannover before and saying no, that the only thing I knew was the scorpions, and jokingly asking the German co-workers if they were like their Beatles. And to be clear, I'm not talking about insects, I'm talking about rock bands here. Because, yeah, the band Scorpions, they are from Hannover. Anyway, on the first day we visited the town center. And just like any other big city, there are lots of shops, lots of things to do. It's a pretty cool place. And we went on a guided tour. We bought some souvenirs. But when things started getting kind of creepy was when we visited the town hall and the old town. I mean, like the older part of town. When we were going to the town hall, one of the people going on the tour was like, "Oh yeah, the town hall is pretty cool, pretty interesting. They have models of the city throughout time, miniatures to show what the city looked like centuries ago." And when they mentioned that, I remember getting like an image in my brain, like, that sounds familiar. I think I've been to a place where they also had that. Then, when we went to the older streets, things started looking suspiciously familiar to me. Like, I have the feeling I've been here before. Or, this looks very similar to another place where I've been. I mean, I've been to a lot of German towns and cities, and I guess just like in any other country, they all look kind of similar. The thing is, there was a moment in which we walked by a building, and I remember seeing a door, and on top of the door there was like a unicorn carved in stone with a golden horn. And when I saw that, it was like, oh shit! I have been here before. I remember taking a picture of this unicorn. And then, a few steps later, we walked by a church in which they had a door, again, another door, representing the gates of hell. And I got a flashback of a guide explaining that door to us. I even remembered taking a picture of that door because I thought it was very impressive. Well, turns out a few years before, in 2019, I have been on a different business trip, and one of the places we had visited was actually Hannover. It wasn't a bad trip or anything, but it looks like my mind decided it was not interesting enough to remember. I guess I'll never know if it was because of that or if it was because back then I was taking a certain medication that sometimes made me a little bit forgetful, made it hard to concentrate. Oh well. Looking on the right side, when I finally remembered that I had actually been there before, I also remembered some sort of food market in the old town where they had a lot of nice places to eat. So at least I managed to guide my coworker, the one I was traveling with, to that food market, and we actually had a pretty nice lunch there. I still think it is pretty hilarious that I only remembered that town thanks to a unicorn carving, and that it was only because I have a friend who loves unicorns, so I took a picture of that carving just to send it to her. Brains, am I right? And now that you've heard the story, what do you think? Is it real? Or am I making it all up? Can a brain truly make you forget about a whole business trip, even if it wasn't a traumatic experience? Either way, you will find out in the next episode of Storytime with Grena. See you next week!